How's it going, everyone? Figured we would jump on a live stream here today. Let me know if the sound is clear and everyone can hear me, and then we'll go ahead and jump in. Hey, everyone. Alright, I'm just going to post this a couple places, and then we'll go ahead and jump in. How's everyone doing? I guess I should say thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Yeah, it was an interesting day for Bitcoin, to say the least. But I mean, this is, as we said many times, we're probably going to test the 20-week several times throughout the market cycle. We don't know when it's going to happen, right? We just know that it will happen, and this is assuming that we're in the bull market, right? I mean, if we're assuming that the bull market has started, which, by the way, there's no guarantee yet, then we're assuming we hold the 20-week. And even in the scenario where the bull market has started, we're going to test the 20-week many times. And the reason for that is twofold, right? The first reason is because you just look back at what happened during the last cycle. Let me switch over to the weekly chart. You just look back at the last cycle and you see, right, the 20-week getting tested time and time again. And oftentimes it was, the tests of the 20-week tended to not be just a slow, gradual move into the 20-week, right? It was typically a dump, right? This one was a 20% dump. And these happened over the course of a few days. This one was a 25% dump. If we continue on, this one was like a 25% dump. We have several more, right? Another one, 28% dump to the 20-week. This was another one. This was almost a 40% dump to the 20-week. I'm just measuring them all out. Here is another one, a 40% dump to the 20-week. And then, as you guys know, the first time that the 20-week did not hold and we came back up, held it as resistance, it was the party was over. But by that point, it was a 50% jump just to get to the 20-week, right? So we've talked about this before. Once you see those 50% dumps, it's really hard to contend that the bull market is still going, and especially if you see it going below the 20-week. And this one was a 70% move to the downside, right, which quickly came back up. But even if you go to the candle, it was 60%. So we recognize that even in Bitcoin bull markets, which again we don't know is the case yet, it's not all fun and games, right? We're gonna see these moves to the downside. But remember, it's the people who bought Bitcoin back at $4,000 were probably scared too. But then those are the people that stand to benefit the most, right, when it does go up, because instead of waiting for them to buy at 10K, they bought at 4K, so they're already up 2.5x by the time it even gets to 10K. So then comparing a lot of these moves, right, to the present day, let's do that. Let's compare it and see kind of where we are. Now, we saw every single move in the last cycle to the 20-week moving average was always at least a 20% dump. And here, you can see it's an 18.43% dump, just looking at this week. But if you take it from, say, the wick, it's from a couple weeks ago, it is a 20% dump. And we actually really even haven't hit the 20-week moving average yet. Like, the 20-week moving average is just over $9,800. So to be completely fair, we have not held the 20-week moving average as support yet, right? We haven't touched it yet in terms of USD. That actually brings me to my next point. I was actually going to look at this, but someone in the private Telegram chat beat me to it. They said to take a look at the Bitcoin valuation against the euro. And I know most people, if you're in America, maybe you don't really care about the euro, but this does tell an interesting story, right? In terms of like, you know, the devaluation of the dollar due to all the printing. You look at the Bitcoin, and by the way, the guy that mentioned it was Crypto Amish. Just to shout out to him for being the first to look at it. You take a look at the Bitcoin versus the euro, okay? And we're going to look at the same thing, right? We're going to look at that 20-week moving average. So again, same thing, 20-week moving average in the bull market. This is where Bitcoin found support, right? And we saw, you know, 25% drop. Again, here, 30% drop. Here's another one, 35% drop. This is the euro, okay? So similar idea, but you can see all these drops to the 20-week moving average, and then the final drop, which took us below it to the candle, was 60%. Now, what happens if you look at present day? Well, we know with the USD, it hasn't actually hit the 20-week moving average yet, right? We're still, you know, we're actually about, well, actually, let me measure it. Well, I guess I'll measure it from here. So it's about a 4.5% drop from where the price currently is for the price of Bitcoin to get to the 20-week moving average against USD. But if you look at the euro, right, which, by the way, held the 20-week as support, okay, so there still is some validity to using the 20-week even when comparing it to the euro. You look over here, and you can also see, right, I mean, it was breaking that 20-week where the candle just shot down. So this was the first break, right? We shot down. This is why we say the 20-week is important, because when you go below it, it tends to be the bad news bears, right? 20% once we broke the 20-week. Here's another one, straight down. 40% once we broke the 20-week. Where is it right now? Well, we actually already had a wick below the 20-week on Bitcoin Euro. So, you know, it kind of, you know, you can understand the narrative, right? The USD, you know, is just being devalued to some degree, right? And you can see that in terms of the euro, we've already come below the 20-week moving average, in fact. But again, I imagine most people aren't really following the euro or the Bitcoin valuation against the euro. But we did like to talk about Forex a little bit on the channel, and just to recognize that some of these trends aren't always, they might not always be as what they seem when you look at, say, other currencies and how Bitcoin is faring against other currencies. And in fact, there's a lot of currencies that have undergone like wild inflation, you know, since 2017, such that Bitcoin is already at a higher value than it was in 2017, and that's just because those currencies have been devalued. So the same thing, right? I mean, Bitcoin against USD has not seen the wick below the 20-week, whereas on the euro it has. So I'm just looking at some of the comments. So the question, right, that everyone wants to know, right? What happens if we go to the 20-week, right? I mean, what happens in the event that Bitcoin goes to the 20-week? And again, you could argue in terms of the euro, it already has. Unfortunately, I imagine most people are looking at the USD valuation. So where are we, right? We're still a little bit away from it. Again, we're 4.5% away. And it looks like, by the way, we came to within like $100 or $200 of it. We came to within like 1%, I think, of the 20-week, down to the wick. So if you look at where it came, this is Bitstamp. If you look to see where it came down to 99.86 on Bitstamp, which was just about 1.5% above the 20-week moving average. And of course, the reason why we say the 20-week is important is because of its historical significance. So then the question, right, is well, what happens if we break it? Well, the first thing I would say is if we break it, you need to look at weekly closes, right? Not necessarily a wick below. I mean, it's not a perfect science. The argument, right, as we say before, is like, what's a few $100 among friends? If you go back to this cycle over here, just to give you an idea, before people, if you see it go below the 20-week and you're freaking out and you think everything is just going to come crashing down immediately, just maybe exercise a little bit of caution. You can see even during the last cycle, there were wicks below the 20-week, right? There were wicks below it. So, and I mean, in fact, this wick was 15% below the 20-week moving average, right? And then this one, was about 4 to 5% below. So if you see it go below the 20-week, it doesn't necessarily mean that on the macro scale, the 20-week isn't going to hold, right? You can look back at this cycle here and see that the 20-week moving average held, even though if you zoom in into the smaller time frames, you can see, okay, well, it did go below it slightly on this very specific day or this other very specific day. But you zoom out, you see, okay, we have these weekly candles. It looks like these weekly candles consolidated. When, anytime they corrected down to the 20-week, then we hovered on the 20-week and then blasted off again, right? Down to the 20-week, move sideways, blast off, down to the 20-week, blast back off, down to the 20-week, continue on. Now, remember, we have not tested the 20-week moving average yet. We have not tested it yet. By this point of the last cycle, we had already tested it. Okay, if you think, right, I mean, I don't believe in the 4-year cycle theory. I mean, everyone knows that. But even if you did believe in it, you have to take a look at what does the data say. Okay, well, back in 2016, I know it's not exactly 4 years, right? It's better on the halving, which is approximately 4 years. But just bear with me for a second. If you look at February of 2016, we were holding the 20-week moving average as support, and we held it as support for the duration of the bull run, right? 20-week moving average was held as support for the duration of the bull run. In February of 2020, which is 4 years later, we went above it, but then we failed to hold it as support. So now we're looking at September of 2020, and we still technically haven't even tested it yet, right? So, I mean, you're talking about 6-7 months later, we still haven't even had our first successful test of the 20-week moving average. So, I mean, I feel like this is also evidence that cycles are lengthening, because we recognize that it's probably going to be a slow grind up, and that it's not just going to go parabolic, right, without any of these corrections. So, as we always said, it's just a matter of time before we test it. It's just, are we going to hold it or not? Now, what happens if we come down and we stay down, right? And then you see a weekly candle closing below the 20-week moving average. Well, in a situation like this, this is where historically speaking, if you see weekly candles closing below the 20-week, again, it's the bad news bears, right? I mean, it's as simple as that. When you see these candles closing below, it tends to be not a good thing in the short term. And so what can you do, right? I mean, in a situation like that, again, this is not financial advice, but in a situation where the weekly candle were to close below the 20-week, what I would personally do is I would move out of most of my altcoins, okay, out of almost all of them. I would keep a little bit of Ethereum, but I would sell most of it. I would sell basically every other altcoin. I would keep 2 altcoins in this scenario that it dumps below the 20-week. The 2 I would keep would be Chainlink, and the reason I would keep Chainlink, by the way, I did sell 2/3 of my Chainlink on the way up. If you follow the premium chat, you would already know that, if you're on the premium list. But so I already sold 2/3 of my link up. I sold about 4/15 of it at $18.50. So I currently have about 1/3 of my initial link position, so I'm looking to get back in on that. I mean, you see days like this, and you really do recognize the importance, right, of dynamic DCA, right? You recognize, maybe you start selling here, you see it go up a little bit more, you sell again, you see it continue to go up, you sell again. You don't get sad that you sold here and then you have to sell again up here. You don't say, oh, I wish I just sold everything up here, because you admit you didn't know. And then you see it come back down, and now it's come back down to a lower point than maybe your last 2 dynamic DCA sells. So then you can already buy back in what you sold at those 2 prior points. This is the whole idea. It's not about emotions, right? It's just about, we recognize that the risk level is higher than it than it really ever has been before for Link, especially against Bitcoin. It did reach, by the way, the Link, I'll say it now because it doesn't matter now, the Link Bitcoin risk reached a level higher than it ever had been in the past, which is why, I said to people on the premium list, I'm like, it's super risky, right? I mean, we've never been at this point before, so, you have to consider that. So I would hold on to my link. I have about a third of it left. I would hold on to it. The reason I would hold on to it, as we've mentioned before, is that it tends to the negative volatility of link tends to cancel out with the negative volatility of Bitcoin. Obviously, there's days like today where that's not true, but again, link is coming off a parabolic move, right? So we already DCA'd the sells on link, so it's fine. In fact, I wanted to see it come down. In fact, I think most of the premium lists wanted to see it come down because a lot of us sold already. So now it's not about, okay, I want to sell my link now. We already did that, right? We sold a lot of it on the way up. So now it's basically, okay, it's come down almost 50%. Instead of being the people that didn't sell up here and they're now freaking out because, as we mentioned before, people get up here, they get trapped, right? They buy link at $20 and then we quickly come down and then these guys feel trapped. Like, what do I do? Like, I bought it at $20. This is my first crypto purchase or something, and now it's already down like 40% since the all-time high. You get trapped, right? And this is what you want to avoid. You don't want to be the people coming into the market when it's already 10x up. Like, I mean, it was already 10x up over the course of 5 or 6 months. So you don't want to do this, right? The smart money now, in my opinion, right? The smart money would not be thinking, if link comes back down even further. Let's say it continues to drop. If that were to happen, people up here, the dumb money that bought, they're probably going to start capitulating, right? Because they're just going to say, this is ridiculous. Like, it's, they're going to say it's a scam, whatever it is. And then they capitulate. Well, guess who they capitulate to, right? They capitulate to the smart money that had bought over here and sold them bags up here. And then the smart money comes back in, right? And then you just rinse and repeat the cycle. So I would not sell my link. The reason is because it improves your covariance matrix against when you're talking about your portfolio of cryptocurrency. Bitcoin and Chainlink are not correlated very, very well. I mean, they just move. Link tends to move when Bitcoin's not really doing much of anything. So it improves your covariance matrix. It increases your risk-adjusted returns. So I will not sell my link. And the better story, right, is to just look at the Link Bitcoin chart. What did Link do? And by the way, if you did not own Link, let's say you're one of the many people who, maybe you didn't own Link and you wish that you had, right? And I've been telling people, right? I mean, a lot of people ask me, like, should I buy Link at $20? And the answer was a resounding no. You should not buy Link at $20. But what I'm saying is, right, if you didn't own Link in the past and you're looking for an opportunity to get it, right, the time that you get it is not when it's up 10x. It's when it's after a big sell-off, right? You swoop in and get it on sale. Now, of course, you don't want to try to go catch a falling knife. I think Bitcoin and Ethereum are the two primary ones that people, or at least that I would be dollar cost averaging to at the moment, right? Because we recognize that the risk on altcoins is extremely high. Let me just check some of the comments. Sorry, I'm just reading the comments. All right. So again, you look at Link, right, and you see this is what we said before, right? It's a trend you want to be a part of. So even in a bear market, Link was still going parabolic against Bitcoin. So I would not sell my Link, and I would not sell. As I said, I would sell most of the Ethereum. I would not sell all of it in the case that Bitcoin were to drop below the 20-week moving average and have a weekly close below it. I would sell a lot of the Ethereum, not all of it. And the reason, right, is I don't actually have the table up, but the argument is if you look back in history, right, at every time that Bitcoin closed below the 20-week, if you had sold your Ether to Bitcoin at the end of that close, like say if you were just super conservative, you didn't try to front run it, you just waited till the weekly close, you sold your Ethereum at the weekly close, and you sold it to Bitcoin, and then you bought your Ethereum back with that same Bitcoin on the first weekly close above the 20-week, I think it was 6 out of 6 times you would have been able to accumulate more Ethereum by doing that. Again, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen the 7th time, but we also said the same thing after it had done it 4 times and 5 times, and we made the same statements, and it did work out, right? So if it goes below, and you want to be conservative, right, and you don't want to try to front run it because you don't want to get, like, kicked out because of just the natural volatility, and then it just pumps right back up, right? You don't want to be the guy that's selling on the wick, and then the next day it just pumps right back up to where it previously was. So if you wait till the weekly close, you see it close below the 20-week moving average. 6 out of 6 times in history, had you sold your Ether to Bitcoin, the first weekly close below the 20-week, and then sold it back the first weekly close above the 20-week, you would have always accumulated more Ether. So I know there's people out there that'll say they love their Ether so much they would never sell it. My contention is I love Ether so much I want to accumulate more of it, and the data suggests that that's a way to do it. So we'll see if that happens, right? I mean, I feel like there's still a decent chance that the 20-week moving average holds, right? There's still a decent chance that it holds, yeah, we'll see what happens. One of the things I want to point out, right, before it's just the bad news bears, right? One of the things I want to point out. Let's look at CoinGecko. What do you see? You look at the top 10, 7 days. What? Oh, by the way, there was one other coin I mentioned. There was another altcoin because I don't consider Ethereum an altcoin. The other coin I won't sell if Bitcoin drops below the 20-week. Is, as many of you guys know, it's Polkadot, because there's not enough data. I don't know what it's going to do, right? I mean, I sold 10% of it at around $6 or so, just to take some profits. But I mean, there's just not enough data with Polkadot to really have a good idea of what it's going to do. I mean, I speculated it would be a top 5 in the private chat. It was. Now that it is, I just kind of want to hang on to it for a couple years. I don't really have any interest in selling it right now. So what I'll do with Polkadot is rain or shine, I'll just hold on to it. And actually, it did stand up pretty well during the sell-off today. I mean, you can still see it's at 584. And if you look at the top 10, right, Ethereum is still up 1.3% on the week. So despite the fact that it was such a bad day where Ether was legitimately at $475, or even higher, right? I think it reached 490 almost a couple days ago. It's still up 1.3% on the week, which just goes to show you how strong it has stayed, right? Even against Bitcoin. So if you pull up the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio, which is important, right? This is a very important ratio. I know a lot of people like to think in terms of USD. I would say do away with that mindset, right? Because a lot of times, you're looking for that exposure to the market. If you're selling Ether, you're probably selling it. If you're sticking in crypto, right, you're probably selling it to Bitcoin. If you're selling, Bitcoin, for me, it's either back to Ether or back to an altcoin, or sometimes USD, especially during a huge speculative bubble, where if Bitcoin itself is in a bubble, then of course it would be selling to USD. But as we've shown before, the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio has actually, it's actually holding up quite well. And you can see that since July, it has been moving up against Bitcoin. And you notice there's these four smaller peaks. By the way, this is a 4-hour time frame. I just pulled it off so I can show you guys these moves. We saw, and nothing goes up monotonically. Remember, nothing goes up monotonically. So we had a 12.5% drop against Bitcoin back on July 27th. We had a 10% drop against Bitcoin. That took us out to August 7th. So from August 3rd to August 7th, we had a 10% drop. On August 14th down to here, we had a 12.5% drop. And from here to right here, we've had a 10% drop. So this, again, is I feel like for me, this is pretty bullish for Ethereum anyways, right? Like if Bitcoin holds the 20-week and just stays above it, I imagine that Ethereum, despite the fact that many of you are super upset about this move to the downside, I imagine that Ethereum will likely start moving back up. And what is one of the things we said the other day with Ethereum, right? Every time Ethereum has crossed $400, the valuation of Bitcoin has basically been lower. The first time Ethereum crossed $400, Bitcoin was worth $12,000. The second time it was worth like 11.7 or 11.8. The third time it was 11.5. The fourth time it was 11.3. Now, if we speculate on Ethereum crossing $400 again, which by the way, it's really not that far away from. So let's say this is the fifth time Ethereum crosses, I don't even know, it might be more. Let's say it's the fifth time Ethereum crosses $400. Well, at that point, the price of Bitcoin is probably going to be, like 10.3, 10.4, right? If this level holds, right? If Bitcoin holds at this level, which, obviously there's probably going to be more volatility here, but, in this scenario that it does hold, or in this scenario that it starts moving back up, Ethereum would naturally move up too, and it will be at $400 again, and Bitcoin will likely be, less than 10.5. So again, as we made a video the other day on Ethereum versus the Bitcoin ratio, it is really, really 2020, as we mentioned many times, is just a slow systematic shift of the Bitcoin ratio. So let's switch it back over to the weekly time frame. Right, so we know that 2017, even you could argue that it started in 2018. So 2018 and 2019 was the move down for Ethereum Bitcoin, right? We kind of bottomed out over here. So this was kind of like our bottom right here, and then we've started moving back up. So this is why I said that 2020 is a big year in terms of, say, a valuation shift of Ethereum against Bitcoin, and I still think we're seeing that play out. And on the live stream the other day, we did an Ethereum Bitcoin live stream. I think it was called like Ethereum has liftoff or something, and we said that the first time we test 0.04, we're likely to hold it as resistance, right? And the reason we said that was because, well, we look back and we see that it did seem to hold resistance a couple times in the past. But again, if you zoom in here on Ethereum at the last few months, what do you see? What do you see happens? Like, if you take a move up, we go up. This one went to, and if we just go to the candle, approximately 25% up, and then it came back down, and then back up, approximately 20%, and then back down, and then back up, 15%. And every single time we came back up, we kind of took out our prior local high, right? So every single time we're doing this, this zigzag pattern, right, where we have a resistance, we come back down, and then we continue to climb higher than where we were before. So like you can see that point here, here, here. So again, as long as the market stay bullish, right, as long as Bitcoin does not drop below the 20-week, which is a little, we're still a few $100s away from on the weekly time frame, of course, I still contend that the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio will probably perform well. The only reason, I feel like the main reason that would stop this trend, right? Remember, things that tend to move upwards are more likely to move upwards than things that are not. I know that sounds elementary, and it is, but a lot of people, I think, kind of overlook it. The scenario where Ethereum comes back down here, right? What's that scenario? It's if Bitcoin drops below the 20-week, especially. If you see Bitcoin dropping below the 20-week, I would anticipate the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio to bleed heavily, okay? If you see Bitcoin hold it, right? Even at these levels, right? Even the fact that we've dropped, 20 or 15, 20% or so, I still contend that Bitcoin will remain bullish until this is broken, until the 20-week is broken on the weekly time frame. Until then, I would say, I know people don't like to hear it. I still think it's just business as usual, and that this type of volatility is natural volatility that we will see during the market cycle, and it's exactly what we saw during the last market cycle. Exactly the same thing. These 20 to 30% drops down to the 20-week moving average, right? This one was the wick below, but every single time we had these moves, and you didn't know when they were coming, right? It was really hard to say exactly when they were coming, but every single time they shook out a lot of people, because every single time it happened, people were like, okay, now this is it, right? This is it. This is the end of the market cycle. It's all over. But every single time we held it. So the question is, right, are we going to hold it? I don't know. I would say the bull market starts when we've had a golden cross. We already had that. We're certainly above the 20-week for a while. We need to hold the 20-week as support. If we hold it as support, which we failed to do, we failed to hold it here, and we failed to hold it here. Okay, and both times we're met with a pretty immediate capitulation of Bitcoin, right? Again, this one here, it dropped from 10,000 down to 8,000 in a week. Here it dropped from 8,400, and down to the wick, right? It dropped down to like 3,800 in a couple weeks. So this is what we're looking out for, and we'll see if it holds, right? Hopefully we hold the line, and it's just business as usual. Remember, if you look at the grand scheme of things, right, and you just say keep your eye on the prize, as we mentioned, we're still on course to get to a sustainable $20,000 Bitcoin in about 16 months. And this has been my target, right, for a long time. I think we've been talking about this for a year now on the channel. And believe me, back in 2019, it certainly was not cool to say that we won't get to a sustainable $20,000 until late 2021 or early 2022. Now it's over a year later, and I think it's starting to sink in that it's more or less becoming a reality, right? It's not confirmed yet, right? I mean, Bitcoin could go to 20K next month if it wanted to. I'm not going to claim that I know exactly when it has to hit 20K. But again, if it does hit 20K next month, it's likely just a short-term bubble, and we're likely coming straight back down. So if anything, we were ahead of schedule, right? Because we recognize, again, as we've said many times, these slower moves up, followed by a parabolic move after, and in the bear market, a slower move up to the prior all-time high within the regression band, parabolic move up, the bear market, a slow move up to the prior all-time high within the regression band, and then we go into price discovery mode, right? And then when you go into this price discovery mode, this is when things go parabolic. So this is what we're looking for. So yeah, that's my general plan, right? If Bitcoin holds it, business as usual. A lot of people who follow the premium chat, we did take profits on the way up. We hit the sell points for Ethereum. A lot of people sold to USD. A lot of people sold to Bitcoin. Either way, they're up on Ethereum. With Link, the same thing, except with Link, we hit a lot more sells, right? Because it really went into speculative bubble mode more than Ethereum did. And so now it's basically just, let's see if the 20-week holds. If it holds, then great, right? It's business as usual. It gives us more confidence for the coming months. If it doesn't hold, then I think we're just kicking the can down the road. And remember, the 200-week moving average in terms of like a kind of like a worst case scenario, this is currently at 6,500. So people always ask me, like, well, what's your bearish scenario? In 2019, I said my bearish scenario was the 200-week, and the worst possible case would be the 300-week. And I mean, we barely hit the 300, right? We barely came down to it, not even really quite reaching it. We were off by about $100. So the 300-week is at 4,500. I really don't think we're going to revisit 4,500, to be completely honest. The 200-week, always on the cards, right? 200 weeks, always on the cards, especially if we drop below the 20-week. If we drop below the 20-week on a weekly time frame, you saw in March how quickly we dropped to the 200-week. It was just like a blink of an eye, and we were well below the 200-week. So if we fall below here, recognize that there's a good chance we'll come down here. But again, we're just in the undervaluation of Bitcoin. So the fair value of Bitcoin, according to this regression band, is $9,290. Okay, so about $9,300, the fair value. The upper band goes up to about $13,006. The lower part goes to $6,313, which also happens to correspond basically with the 200-week moving average. So the lower band, I would say, would just be all the way down to about 6,000, which would be the 200-week moving average, which is the bottom. And as long as we're not above the upper band, I don't think that even Bitcoin is even in a bubble, right? It feels like a bubble to some people just because of how quickly we came from up here. But if you just draw a line, right, and just look at, say, 2019, it was just all this negative volatility that took us down here. There wasn't a huge change even from, say, February if you just kind of don't look at this space right here and just say, okay, we move sideways, and forget about the pandemic crash, it wouldn't have felt like a bubble if this hadn't happened, right? If we had just moved sideways instead of crashing very briefly down here, it would certainly have not felt like a bubble, and which is why I contend that it's not a bubble for Bitcoin. Certainly for other coins like Ethereum, we were in the beginning stages of a bubble. For Link, we were definitely in a bubble. For a lot of micro caps, we were assuredly in a bubble, and I warned people, a lot of these coins have done really great, but at that same time, if Bitcoin goes back to the 20-week, they're going to crash. Like, they're probably going to crash a lot harder. So I imagine a lot of those coins did crash a lot harder. And if you look at the top 10 and you look at, say, the last 24 hours, I mean, Bitcoin is down 10%. You have these other coins like Link. I mean, this is down 20%, which is it's really what I want to see, because I would like to reclaim my Link position, because I did sell. Again, I sold about 2/3 of it during the parabolic move. I'd like to see that continue to come down. This BCH and Litecoin I think are the next two to drop out of the top 10. I don't think they're going to stay in the top 10 too much longer. Cardano is down a good bit, and if you guys follow the channel, I told you guys I would not buy Cardano, even when it was at 2 cents, at 3 cents, at 4 cents. I said I was aggressively buying it. Once it got above 10 cents, I said no more. Right? We're done buying Cardano. You had forever and a half to purchase it less than 10 cents. Well, now it's come back down below 10 cents, right? So I'm not buying it yet, but it's certainly one of the ones that is now definitively on my radar, right? The reason why I'm not buying it yet is because my risk tolerance on altcoins when Bitcoin is this close to the 20-week is not very high. And the reason I say that, a lot of you probably think, oh, well, if you buy it now, you stand to gain a lot, right? If it holds the 20-week. I don't care, right? I don't care. I already hold enough ADA. The risk on purchasing altcoins when Bitcoin is this close to the 20-week is really high, right? It's super high, because if Bitcoin falls below it, these coins, they can drop 30% in a day. Like, in a day, they can easily drop 30%. So I would say for coins like ADA and even Link, when we're at the 20-week, just above it, and if you don't own any of them, maybe you would want to DCA back into it slowly. But I'm personally still holding off, right? And the reason is because of where Bitcoin currently is. If Bitcoin were at 11K and ADA were at 8 cents, then I would probably buy ADA. But because it's so close to the 20-week, to me it just doesn't make a lot of sense. It's time to really focus on the positions, right? We had, you had this plethora of altcoin positions. A lot of people did. Hopefully you took the strategy of dynamic DCA according to the risk metric, right? Even if you are not on the premium list, you probably have an idea of where it was just by looking at other videos, and then just DCAing dynamically out of the market when these coins are going parabolic, right? If they're going up 5x, 10x, 20x, don't let the FOMO get to you, right? Just make sure you take those profits. You can convert it back to Bitcoin, you can convert it back to Ethereum, you can convert it back to USD, but I would say take the profits, because if you don't, things go parabolic. And if you just go with the HODL meme and you say HODL, this is when, I know a lot of you think that every random altcoin you held is going to reclaim its prior all-time high from a month ago, but a lot of them won't, actually. And there's plenty of examples. If you go back and look at 2013, there were a ton of coins that went parabolic in 2013 that did not have a snowball's chance in hell of going parabolic in 2017. A lot of them. Just go look at them. I think WorldCoin, right? Wasn't that one? If we look up, was it WorldCoin? Let's look at that one. I'm just trying to remember back to 2013. There was a lot of coins. Yeah, look at this one. This is a prime example. So if you think that your altcoin has to reclaim its prior all-time high, here's a great example, right? WorldCoin. I mean, it was such a joke, right? But in 2013, you can see that it went from like 0.002. I mean, it was less than a penny, like a fifth of a penny, and it went up to 80 cents in 2013. and then it came back down to, you know, 0.007. Look at what it did in 2017. Not even close. A fourth of its prior all-time high. A fourth of it, right? So don't think that every single coin has to reclaim its prior all-time high, because it just won't happen. A lot of these won't. A lot of them won't. It's just the nature of the game. This is why I say every single time there is a speculative bubble, it is my opinion, right? It's my opinion that you should take profits. I'm just looking at the comments. Looks like Anime Bitcoin is, maybe he's trolling the chat. I don't know. Keep an eye on him. Max Fury says yes, but altcoins back then didn't have real use cases like some do now. So I'm not necessarily talking about the ones that actually have like use cases and that there's actually teams behind. I'm talking about you take one look at Uniswap and you see all the random altcoins, right, that are on there. These are the coins that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about Link. I mean, I'm fairly positive on Link, you know, continuing to go past $20. I think that Link will likely hit $100, right, in the next couple years or so. But my point is that, you know, there's a lot of coins out there that will not reclaim their prior all-time high. This is my point. Fred says, I understand your position on selling Link, but for me, I'm never selling. Yeah, I mean, you don't. I mean, if you never sell, then I don't. I mean, why do you hold it? Like, you just want to? I mean, is your goal to just have, like, you know, money that you never use? I mean, I would hope that at some point you would sell, at some point in your life. But if you just want to hold forever, maybe that's fine. Yeah, can we get some likes? It's funny, we have 923 people watching and only 133 likes. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you guys like the live stream and you know, want to follow the channel throughout the market cycle as we test the 20-week moving average, you know, time and time again. Yeah, so again, you know, Link Bitcoin. This is that trend, right? And we're gonna see it. We're gonna see it retrace, you know, at key points during the cycle. But I think the general trend is still intact. The Bitcoin is still at around 10.3. So let me know if you guys have questions in the chat, and I'll start to try to address some of them. So someone asks, will money flowing into altcoins affect Bitcoin's ability to go to 100K in 2023, 2024? So I think it's a good question. I think a lot of people forget what happens when Bitcoin moves, right? When Bitcoin goes parabolic, everyone thinks that, you know, everyone's going to flood to altcoins. No. When Bitcoin starts moving, if you have not seen it in the past, right? When Bitcoin starts moving, a lot of the rest of the market will start sitting still and watching it move, right? You know, Bitcoin is the king for a reason, and it will reclaim that title, right? I mean, when it moves down, the market moves down. When it moves up, maybe the rest of the market doesn't move up, right? It is the market mover over the macro scale. Yes, arguably you could say that, you know, things like Ethereum were dragging Bitcoin up the last couple of weeks. But my contention is that the only reason those coins were doing well in the first place was because Bitcoin was above the 20-week moving average, and because it was above the 20-week, those other coins are very bullish, right? They're very bullish when it's above the 20-week, and this is why I say, you know, even now with it near the 20-week, it doesn't mean that everything is going to continue to crash as long as it holds it. Remember, if you look back, let's look back at 2016. Okay, the first time that Bitcoin held it as support was, you know, right around here, the first quarter of 2016. And if you look at Ethereum versus Bitcoin back in the first quarter of 2016, So let's go back and look at the first quarter of 2016. Ethereum pumped 1,800% against Bitcoin. And this was this was on Bitcoin's down move, right? So you can see here it started pumping right here. January 10th of 2016 is when it started. January 10th. If you go to January 10th of 2016, it was the move down. It was actually this move down to the 20-week where the Ethereum move against Bitcoin started. So in this cycle, it actually started a little bit ahead of schedule. If you measure it a different way, if you say measure it by time above the 20-week, so let's go to time above the 20-week. So we'll say that we got above the 20-week here, October 12th. We were above the 20-week, and let's go to January 10th for about 91 days, right? Before Ethereum started pumping against Bitcoin. And then you go to the present day. Okay, so let's go to the present day. And we were above the 20-week starting on April 27th, and Ethereum really started making a move here about 84 days later. So it was really similar, right? If you look at the Ethereum Bitcoin chart. So you go to, where was it? It was so around, I think it was around July 20th. It may be, I mean, I think it maybe happened a little bit before, but let's look at July 20th anyways. So looking at July 20th, so yeah, like right around here, right? This is when a major pump started occurring, approximately the same length of time that Bitcoin was above the 20-week from 2016 or from 2015 into 2016. So again, it was the move down of Bitcoin to the 20-week, which actually propelled the Ethereum ratio upward, right? You look back at 2016, it was that move down to the 20-week that sparked that move, okay? And I would contend that it's holding that 20-week as support is what really brings more bulls out of hiding, right? Because there's probably a lot of bulls hiding because they're still skeptical of this. So you're still in that doubt phase of the cycle, that you think that, okay, this can't be it. It has to come back down. It has to come back down to $4,000 because you didn't buy enough of it, or you've been burned so many times that you don't want to jump in, right, until there's some more confirmations here. So again, if Bitcoin holds the 20-week, right, if it holds the 20-week, which we technically haven't even visited yet on the USD valuation, again, against the euro, we're right at it. And we even had a wick below it. But against USD, we haven't visited it yet. If we hold it, I think this is probably a really good thing for the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio, and that will likely continue the move up after consolidating for a few days. On the other hand, if we fail to hold it, again, we're probably gonna come back down. Let me know if you guys have any questions. All right, Pradeep looks like he wants to get hidden from the channel, so I will oblige him. He's gone. No one can see his comments. Nicholas has views on the CME gap. Yeah, there is. It's not closed, right? I mean, if you go to if you look at the futures. For Bitcoin, there's a gap, right, at around 9,600, starts at around $9,600. So again, I've always contended, and I still contend, that it doesn't have to fill. I guess it would be a nice thing if it did, so I could stop hearing people complain about it or saying that it has to happen. But if it does need to happen, we're really not that far away from it, right? A move to fill that gap from where we currently are would only be, let's see, it would only be about a 6 to 7% drop, okay? A 6 to 7% drop. I mean, that's just an average day for Bitcoin. So it could certainly fill. I don't think that it has to fill, though. I don't think that it has to fill. If we hold the 20-week, I would say we can still hold the 20-week and fill the gap, right? If it's just a wick to the gap, we can fill it, come right back up, hold the 20-week, and it's still potential bull market, right? But again, if you see the weekly close below the 20-week, then I would become very skeptical about how bullish Bitcoin is going to be in the short term. And again, we're still on target, right? Even if we come back down, we saw how quickly things can recover. So, worst case scenario, like if we do come back down, right, we could still recover and still go back to the prior all-time high over the next year and a half, right? It's still a possibility. It just, you see how quickly things can recover. I mean, we went from $3,800 to $12,004 in about 5 or 6 months or so. So even in that situation, I don't think it's a huge deal. Remember, my general thinking is that the timeline is about 2023 for the next paradigm shift. So if we're heading that direction, and you recognize that 2019, 2020, and 2020, at least the first half of 2021, are the accumulation years of Bitcoin, right? As we've said before, right? So if you look at Bitcoin, and let's look at the BLX after I deleted all that. Let's look at the BLX, right? So you take a look at the macro moves for Bitcoin. Arguably, 2011, 2010, that was the first accumulation phase. Then 2011 through, the end of 2012, that was the second accumulation phase. 2015 to 2017, the third accumulation phase. And then I would basically say 2019 out to likely somewhere in here, like midway through 2021 or something, is another accumulation phase. So 1, 2, 3, and then 4. If I can draw it, but you get the idea, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4, these are the accumulation phases. So if these are the accumulation phases, right, and you accept that these are the accumulation phases, then your goal, my goal, is to accumulate as much Bitcoin as I can for as little as I can over at least the next year, right? I would say we have at least one more year of accumulation phase for Bitcoin, maybe even a year and a half if you're okay continuing to buy it up past, say, $15,000. If you're okay buying it up to $20K, you still have probably 16, maybe 18 months in terms of this accumulation range, right? And you could argue that if you think Bitcoin's going to 100K or even 60K, buying it at 10K still seems like a good deal. If it goes down lower to 6K to 200 week, I would treat this as an opportunity, and that's why I always say you should have, you really should have dry powder cash on the sidelines in case of drops like this, because when things happen and things drop, if you already have too much exposure to crypto, you don't have that money to swoop in, and pick up some of that cheaper cryptocurrency. So yeah. Let me know what questions you guys have. Let's also get some more likes to the channel. We have about 1/3 of the likes versus viewers, and please subscribe to the channel if you like the content. Someone says, if we aren't in a bull run, does that give us a higher chance of falling the 20-week average? I mean, that's the thing. We don't know yet if we're in the bull run. We just don't know. Someone says stock to flow is not valid. I'm not really sure what gave you the impression that it was valid. As I've said many times, I think stock to flow is basically just more or less a large marketing gimmick than anything that should be taken seriously. I think it's probably done a really good thing for the space, getting people interested in crypto. I do not think you should use it to think that Bitcoin's going to 100K by 2021, because it's just almost assuredly not happening. I've said this for a long time. I think that people are going to still be somewhat resilient or not really wanting to hear that for a bit longer, but as we start to get into 2021, I think more people are going to come around and say, okay, maybe there's something to the idea of lengthening cycles. Maybe it takes longer to push it takes longer to push it up this regression curve, right? To go from 10K to 100K, the amount of money that has to flow in is a lot more. To go from say like 100, or let's say to go from like a 10 billion market cap to 100 billion, in my opinion, is a lot easier than going from 100 billion to 1 trillion. Okay, it's a lot easier. You see how easily some of these micro cap coins can pump, right? They can go from 10 million to 100 million in like a week. Bitcoin's not going to go from a market cap of like 100 billion to a trillion in a week. It's going to take a long time. So I think that the market cap of Bitcoin will likely reach during this market cycle by, say, the year 2023. I think it will likely reach approximately like maybe around 2 trillion or so. And I think the entire cryptocurrency market cap will probably reach around 10 trillion, plus or minus a few trillion, right? What's a few trillion among friends? I don't really know. Probably around 7 to 8 trillion, upwards of 12 to 13 trillion. Somewhere around that area, I think that's where the crypto market cap will go over the next, say, 3 years, plus or minus a year, right? As late as 2024, as early as late 2022. Definite, almost assuredly not 2021. Almost assuredly not 2021, because we still have a long grind just to get back to 20K. I mean, you see the grinds it takes. Like, you see the grinds to get to the prior all-time high. It's a long one. It's going to take a while to get to a sustainable 20K, right? It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of live streams. I mean, it's honest work, but someone has to do it. And here we are. We're going through it. We're going to be here for the cycle. Someone said, if we get closer to the 20 week, would you drop solid projects? I mean, first of all, I already sold some of these projects, right? As I mentioned, when they get to certain risk levels, I already sell portions of them. Like Link, I've sold some. Cardano, I've sold some. Yeah, if we go below the 20 week, I definitely would. Like if we print weekly candles below the 20 week, I certainly would sell off a lot of them. Yes, I would. It doesn't matter if I believe in them over the long term. What matters, in my opinion, is the data science, right? And the data suggests that if Bitcoin on the weekly time frame goes below the 20 week, then a lot of the altcoins are not going to have a good time. Austin says, what's your buying strategy, DCA? Yeah, I do it dynamically. I just base it on the risk level. Again, the risk level is something you can find on my website. I guess I haven't mentioned it. If you want to check out the website, just go to intothecryptoverse.com. You can check it out. This is what I trade with. If you've heard me talking about the risk levels, I just use the risk levels to dynamically DCA out of coins into coins, right? We dynamically DCA out of Link. A lot of people on the premium list sold at 1850 or so, right? A lot of their position, and are looking to get back in. So if you want to check it out, intothecryptoverse.com, you get access to the private Telegram alerts channel, the private Telegram chat room, the premium videos, the premium reports every single week, the risk dashboard, and the strategy dashboard. So check it out. You can pay with crypto and get a discount. And also the prices are going to be going up on September 28th. So if you want to get grandfathered in at the lower prices, make sure you go ahead and sign up. And again, if you're just joining, I want to remind you that Ethereum is actually holding up pretty well. I mean, it's still at 387, right? So this is, I mean, if you look back, right? If you just look back, not too long ago, if you look on the weekly time frame, I mean, it doesn't even look like Ethereum has had that bad of a time, right? I mean, it to me, right, it looks more or less range bound, right, between around 387, 388 to the top of these candles. You're looking at around 430. So as terrible as it seems for Ethereum, because of this wick, it really, I don't feel like it's as bad as it seems, right? It's not as bad as it seems. Someone said, Frank says, I love this question. Frank says, based on prior history, how likely are you to have another kid? Well, my wife is pregnant, so we're about to have our third kid in October, so next month. So I'm probably going to miss a little bit of time on YouTube when our son is born. So we're going to have our third son next month. Okay, I guess Lucas is advertising his own channel, Lucas P. So I'll go ahead and have to remove him. I'm not really here if you're going to self-promote. Yeah, so much for naming our kids Bella. I said if it had been a girl, I probably would have petitioned that we name her Isabella for Bella, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, and ADA. And you know the dangers of extrapolation, right? If I had, my first son was born in 2016, my second son was born in 2019, my third son is going to be born in 2020. So I think maybe the rate at which kids are being born here is on shortening cycles. So hopefully we can't extrapolate that too much further, though. Someone says Neo gonna. I don't really know about Neo that much. I don't really follow that one as much. You know, there's a rumor, and I don't know if it's true. I'm just gonna say it. There's a rumor that the reason that Ether can't go above 390 is because we only have 384 likes. Just gonna say it. Don't know if it's true. I saw that rumor floating around Reddit. We'll see if it's true. I gotta tell you guys, I mean, looking at Link, we followed this, during this parabolic move, and a lot of times I get questions about like, oh, you should do another Link video. I find it really difficult to make videos on coins like Link when it's going down. Like I sure as hell tell the premium list, right? Like that you probably want to hold off, right? The risk level is higher than it really ever has been in terms of its Bitcoin risk. And so I'm a little bit more, I'm a lot more candid right there. But when you're talking about public YouTube, right, and you're talking about making a video on a coin that's going parabolic, not a lot of people want to listen to the idea that something is going to stop going parabolic, right? Especially because a lot of the people are buying it at $20 or $18. So you just kind of have to pick what you're going to talk about. And leave the rest of it to the private stuff where it's not like the masses on YouTube that are the dumb money pouring in aren't just going to try to rip you a new one for saying that someone could have the audacity to suggest that Link would retrace a significant percentage over the next few weeks, right? But this is exactly what's happened, right? I mean, it's down 40% already from its all-time high. And I still think it's risky. It's certainly a lot less risky than it was 3 weeks ago, right? It's certainly a lot less risky now. It's still pretty risky, I think, even at $12. And it doesn't mean, you might see it go to $13 or $14. It doesn't mean I'm going to regret it, right? I mean, it could always do something like this, right, where it comes down, maybe goes back up, and it keeps coming down, right? I mean, this is a potential scenario. Another potential scenario is it goes back up and Ben misses out on this potential reaccumulation range, right? I still have a third of my original Link stack, but again, it's just not part of my risk tolerance strategy to even be buying Link at $12. I still think it's too high at this stage of the market cycle. In a year, this would probably seem like a dream. So it depends on what your goals are, right? $12 in a year, probably, well, I don't know about a year, but 2 years for sure. I would say there's a good chance in 2 years, $12 would be a pipe dream. In terms of it being too low, like I would imagine Link would be a lot higher by that point. But in the short term, I think the risk even at $12 is incredibly high. ADA is below 10 cents though, which I think is somewhat interesting now. It's kind of on the menu, right? You talk about what's on the menu for your DCA. ADA was not on the menu for the last several months, after it went above 10 cents and all these other coins were moving, by the way. And by the way, if you follow the premium list, I sold a lot of my, it wasn't a lot, it was a small percentage of my position of ADA to Ethereum at 235 when ADA was at around 11 or around 10 cents and went to Ethereum, and then Ethereum pumped. Now I'm looking at it again, like, you know what, that Ethereum from that point is up, 40% or so. ADA's down from where I sold it, so you could convert that Ethereum back to ADA now and instantly have like 40% more ADA from that conversion. But even now, I still would like to see what plays out with Bitcoin first, right? I want to see what Bitcoin's going to do here. I'm more interested at the present time, like right now, like at this very, very moment, I'm more interested in just Bitcoin and Ethereum. These are the two main ones that I'm interested in at the current time. I want to see what Bitcoin does. I want to see if Bitcoin can hold this, if Ethereum starts moving again, gets back above $400, and we say, you know what, every time Ethereum goes over 400, Bitcoin is continuing to bleed, right? Which continues the narrative of Ether gaining value against Bitcoin throughout 2020. Which is what we've been saying all along. And remember, one of the main metrics that we followed for a long time, maybe some of you guys remember it, was the 20-month moving average, right, against Bitcoin. And the reason we followed it basically was just looking at saying, it tended to be, once we were above it, we really pumped. We held it as support a couple times over here. Once we broke it, it was really bad news. And then recently, we followed it earlier this year quite frequently. We had each of these 5 wicks basically go up to the 20-month moving average on Bitcoin, right? And we said, okay, when we get a candle above it, it's going to start pumping most likely. And that's exactly what it's done, right? First major move, second major candle, and then this is our third candle in September, which, by the way, is still green. So believe it or not, it's still technically up on the monthly time frame. So So just keep that in mind, right? Look at the bigger picture here. It's still moving up, and we'll see what happens, right? It's still significantly above the 20-month. And again, once we broke it over here, this is when those major candles started occurring. So this major candle here, this one, and then this one, doing the same thing again, albeit at a smaller scale. Makes sense. We expect decreasing volatility during this cycle. Naturally, everyone wants to talk about XRP. As I've said many times on the channel, I think a lot of you guys already know this. In terms of XRP, I steer clear of it until Bitcoin gets to its prior all-time high. Until then, it's not on the menu, right? It's just not on the menu. I don't really care what it does. I know a lot of people like to argue every single time it has a very slight pump against Bitcoin. People like to argue that, oh, haha, Ben's missing out on the move. And again, my argument back to you is that I am not missing out on anything, because the opportunity cost, again, of holding XRP is way too high. And this is one of the things I showed you guys, right? Even if you measure it from, say, October at this peak to the current price, XRP is down approximately 33%. You measure the same thing with Ethereum from the October 2019 peak, right, which is here, and Ethereum is up 70% against Bitcoin. So again, these short-term moves that people like to pat themselves on the back for and say, look, it's moving up. By the way, I don't know if you guys noticed, but there were a lot of people on Twitter and a lot of people on YouTube shilling XRP the last couple of weeks, probably because a lot of people have these secret XRP bags that they don't like to talk about. And I'm telling you now that, yeah, we admit that there's a snowball's chance in hell that it could pump sooner, right? But we also look at the last cycle and say, you know what? When Bitcoin got above the 20-week for the first time and held it as support, when it held it as support, it was in early 2016. And when it did that, XRP pumped against Bitcoin 81%, but it did not change the macro trend, right, from candle top to candle bottom of negative 94% against Bitcoin. So this is just noise. This is just natural volatility. So in the same manner, you come over here and you say, okay, well, this is similar. It went up around 45% against Bitcoin. It still doesn't change from candle top to currently it's down 85%. And I would argue that there's a higher chance that it's going to continue to come down against Bitcoin, maybe even down to 90 to 95% by the end of 2021, early 2022. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at. So something like this. So I would argue that there's a higher chance that it continues to come down, and then it maybe pumps, than it immediately pumping in the immediate future. And again, I reserve the right to be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I don't really care. It just wasn't on the menu. It's not part of my risk tolerance to buy it right now, when the prior data suggests that it really doesn't have a great chance of pumping right now. Yeah, I mean, I've said before about DOT. It's one that, I said it before it was even listed. I said that I think it's one to hold for the market cycle. I think it's going to have a role during this market cycle, and I think that for me, I said DOT is I sold about 10% of what I bought when it hit six. I bought it at around $3. I sold about 10% of it at $6, and now I'm just holding it. Right, I'm holding it. I'm probably going to hold it for a couple years. The reason I'm not selling it is because there's really not enough data to know any clue of what it's going to do, and I don't want to sell it and then watch it go to like $100 over the next 2 years, right? I'd rather just hold it because I have no idea what it's capable of, and I'd like to see. I basically just am okay holding it even during a bear market, because maybe it'll perform well. And this is why I said this. You go back and look at CoinGecko, even during this major pullback today, Polkadot is still at 584. So this is pretty good, and you can see it's still up 3.7% on the week. So still pretty good in my opinion, and I will hold this one, rain or shine, for probably at least the next couple years. And by the way, I'm staking DOT as well. Just for DOT, I'm basically just staking it, and I'm forgetting about it. Just that's kind of my opinion on Polkadot. Stake it, forget about it, see where it's at in a couple years, and act accordingly. DM Wheelis says, question, as you said with Link, it can reach a risk level of 1 or even above. How do you factor this into your sell strategy? So it cannot reach a risk level above 1. If it reaches 1, it just redefines what 1 is. So when you think about what the risk of 1 means, like, what does it mean? It doesn't mean that it can't go higher than that in the short term in terms of its price action against Bitcoin. What it means is that when it reaches 1, it means that the volatility against Bitcoin is higher than it ever has been, or it's at least equal to or higher than it ever has been before. So then it redefines what 1 is, okay? And this is why if you are on the premium list and you follow the risk dashboard, this is why I put confidence levels next to each one, because Link hasn't been around long enough for us to have a huge confidence level on its capable volatility against USD or against Bitcoin, because it has not lived through a bull market. Because it has not lived through a bull market, I will always keep some of my Link. I'm imagining that was what your question was. I will always keep some of my Link, no matter what, right? And when I say no matter what, I mean at least for the next few years. I do still sell it up to the risk levels, but if it had gotten to that 0.9 risk level, which it didn't in terms of USD, it made it to the 0.8 risk level, to the 0.8 to 0.9 risk band. If it had made it to the next one, I would not have sold everything, right? I think I said it, in the premium list. I would have sold a certain percentage of it. So I will always hold some link for the market cycle, but I still want to, take advantage of these speculative bubbles in the meantime. Also, if you guys want, there is a Telegram channel. If you're looking for a place to chat when the YouTube stream ends, you can check out the Telegram channel. I'll go ahead and put it there in the comment section. So check it out. Someone says any chance Bitcoin goes to 5K or below. I mean, there's always a chance, right? It would basically mean it's going to the 300-week moving average if that were to happen, because the 300-week moving average is currently at 45.16. So if it goes to that level, it's basically going to the same level it was a few months ago. It's just that it's moved up, right? So a few months ago, the 300-week moving average was at around 3,800. Today, the 300-week moving average is around 4,500. So if we continue, you can imagine the 300-week continues marching up. If we come down to it, which would be like right around this, if it were to come down to it, it would basically be identical to this level, right? Because the idea is that our fair value of Bitcoin has to keeps moving up. So this is my opinion. If it were to come down to 5K, over the next couple months, then it's essentially like it was going to 3.8K back in March. Someone says, isn't Polkadot at 5th on market cap too risky to hold for now? Is the market cap right? I mean, it is risky, right? And I've said this from the very beginning. It's incredibly risky. But I also contended for myself when it first came out and it hit the market. It was also, in my opinion, it was too risky not to hold. And I am very selective, right? I don't just say that about any coin. I mean, I said on the premium list, I think it's going to be a top 5 well before it got there. I do think that it has a big role to play this cycle, and I don't say that about a lot of coins. Remember, I mean, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin are probably falling out of the top 10. I also said Bitcoin SV would fall out of the top 10. I think Cardano will probably move back into the top 10. I think that, maybe Tezos has a chance to get to the top 10. And you go down and, you can look at some of the different coins. A lot of these I don't think are... I don't necessarily follow as much. I do follow Cosmos a little bit, and I follow VeChain a little bit. But a lot of them I really don't follow that much, just because I feel like there's just so much noise and so much hype around every single token. It's hard to follow everything. And you really don't need to follow everything, right? You don't need to. I think the main thing is to just learn how the coins interact with each other. Like, learn how a few of them interact, and you can make a ton of money from those few interactions. If you try to follow too many, then I think you kind of get disenfranchised with how the market acts, like how it behaves. Someone says, what's a good number of coins to hold? You just mean like in terms of diversification? It's a good question, right? Because only holding 1 or 2 coins, you have your Sharpe ratio isn't as high as it could be. You want to increase your Sharpe ratio, which is your risk-adjusted returns, and the way you do that is to have diversification, right? So the way you can diversify is you kind of create your own little index fund of crypto. And I would, it's not financial advice, but personally, if I didn't own any crypto, I would start with Bitcoin, right? Then I would move to Ethereum. After I got those two, I would probably look at things like Chainlink, Cardano, Polkadot, right? I would look at Polkadot for sure. These are probably the next three I would look to accumulate after Bitcoin and Ethereum. I certainly, by the way, I have showed this on the channel before. I don't have the chart handy at the moment, but if you look at the risk-adjusted returns and the efficient frontier of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and XRP, if you calculate what maximizes the Sharpe ratio, which is your risk-adjusted returns based on historical volatility and historical returns, guess how much? Let me see if you can guess in the chat. What percentage of XRP and Litecoin would make up a portfolio that includes Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and XRP that would maximize your risk-adjusted returns based on historical returns and historical volatility since 2015? So guess in the chat what percentage of Litecoin and XRP would maximize your risk-adjusted returns. Yeah, so a lot of people are basically getting it. So for Litecoin, it was 0. So Litecoin, it doesn't mean it can't pump, right? But for every dollar in Litecoin, it's a huge opportunity cost, right? To not have it in, say, Ethereum or some other project that I feel like has a lot more utility. So Litecoin, it was 0. XRP is almost 0. It was like 0.4%. And the reason it was 0.4% was namely just because of those these two major moves. That it really shot up, right? It really just shot up against Bitcoin a couple times. So again, only 0.4% maximized the Sharpe ratio. So it was basically Bitcoin and Ethereum were the only two coins out of that collection of 4 coins that maximize the Sharpe ratio or your risk-adjusted returns. And this is another reason why I say holding Litecoin and XRP before Bitcoin gets to its prior all-time high is just a huge wasted opportunity, in my opinion. Like, your dollars would probably be at better work, doing better work somewhere else in the market than holding these coins. Not financial advice, just my opinion. Someone says, yeah, I mean, U.S. dollar going up equals Bitcoin stocks going down. I mean, it's true when the currency index, U.S. dollar currency index, has been going up recently, it's coincided with Bitcoin going down. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you guys like the content. I'm trying to get to 40,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I'm not sure if I'll make it, but hopefully we can make it. My original goal was to get to 30,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and then it really shot up. So let's try to get to 40,000 subscribers by the end of 2020. And also, please give the video a like if you guys like the content. Actually, let's go ahead and we haven't looked at it yet. Let's pull up Polkadot. I'm gonna have to switch to like a 1 hour chart so we can actually see something. So yeah, I mean, this is a pretty good, just like a pretty good trend here so far, right? And the reason why I said I'm not selling any more of it right now is because I just don't feel like there's enough data to have any clue as to what's going to happen. Let's see, these moving averages. So this is the 20. Oh, this is just the hour. So yeah, this isn't really that important. I'm just gonna go ahead and hide these. But you can see the general trend here. It does seem to be holding up fairly well, even with this recent dip. In fact, it looks like it's basically been in this range here since August 25th or so. So about the last week or so, it's been in this range despite the massive sell-off in the crypto market. Someone says, do you usually sell and rebuy in, or you usually just hold? I sell and I sometimes rebuy, right? The idea with dynamic DCA, right, is you dynamically DCA your sells. If it goes back down, back to the lower risk levels, then you can buy back in. But if it doesn't, then you just keep selling, right? You just keep selling on the way up. Someone says, what is your subscriber risk metric? Are you concerned about a retracement after such a large pump? See, that's the thing. The number of subscribers goes up when Bitcoin price goes up or down. The only time that the number of subscribers on the channel kind of stagnates is when the price of Bitcoin just moves sideways. So whether the price is going up or down, it tends to bring in more subscribers. It's mainly just when it moves sideways that people kind of get bored of crypto and move to other markets. Someone says, what are your thoughts on Ethereum surpassing Bitcoin? Probably not this market cycle, and if it does, it would probably just be very short-lived, right? I mean, there's a chance that it could. I'm not going to completely write it off. It could happen. If it does, it probably wouldn't last for very long. I don't know if Link's going to make it back to $6. Like I said, I'm not going to buy it at $12, but I probably wouldn't wait. I think that there's going to be, I wouldn't wait until $6 to buy it. And I still own some Link, right? As I mentioned, I sold 2/3 of my Link on the way up, which was documented on the premium list, into thecryptoverse.com. I sold 2/3 on the way up. And I'm looking to buy back in, right? I'm looking to reaccumulate if it gives me the chance. And $12 is still a little too high for my taste, right? I think the risk level is too high. What would make $12 more attractive is if it stays at $12 for the next 2 months, right? So the nice thing about the risk metric, right, is it's dynamic. So if Link establishes a new support at a certain level, the risk levels will slowly come down, right? Because it recognizes, okay, it's made a new support region. The risk levels are going to slowly trickle down. So I would not buy Link at $12 today. If Link is $12 in say 3 months, and the risk level has come down a lot, then maybe I would, because there is a certain thing. There's something called the time value of money. Like if you buy Link today at $12, and it's again $12 in 2 or 3 months. That is an opportunity cost potentially on having it somewhere else. So I would argue that I don't think I would necessarily wait until $6 to buy, but I'm certainly not going to buy it at 12. Not right now anyways. Maybe later I would, but not right now. I was about to say, Bitcoin must be dropping because I'm seeing some of these other coins start to pull back too. One of the things you may notice, and I'm not sure if you guys noticed it, but you should pay attention to it. Every time that Bitcoin drops and then moves back up, like every time that it's kind of gone from 10.3 down to like 10.1 to 10.2 and then back up to 10.3, it seems that most altcoins like tend to keep dropping against it. So they drop with Bitcoin when it drops, but they don't completely recover back to the previous level before that drop from 10.3. And I know it's only happened like 2 or 3 times because it's fairly recent, but just watch it if it happens again, right? Watch it if it goes back down to like 10.1 and then it goes back up to 10.3, then I feel like there's a good chance that like ADA is probably going to be less than 90, than 9.5 cents at that point, and that Link is probably going to keep coming down too. So this is when altcoins can get bearish when Bitcoin is flirting with that 20-week moving average, because it's just like a hop away from the 20-week. We're really not that far away from it, right? Again, it's only a few percentage points away. So you can see it here, right? We're about 4% away from the 20-week. And remember, as we mentioned earlier, but if you're new to the show, according to the Euro chart, the Bitcoin Euro chart, we're already at the 20-week. And this could be a sign of the devaluation of the US dollar, because even with the Bitcoin valuation against the Euro, it held it as support on the 20-week for the duration of the last bull run as well. And you can see that it is already sitting at the 20-week moving average, right? I mean, basically you can see it like a perfect candle right to the 20-week. So you could argue that this is partially because of the devaluation of the dollar, that it's sitting higher than the 20-week right now. Diego says you probably get this a lot, but if you were just getting into crypto right now, how would you invest $1,000? I mean, I don't want to tell you what to do with your money, right? I'm not going to offer financial advice, but I mean, I would first start at least looking at Bitcoin and Ethereum, and if you want to go beyond those, maybe look at Link and maybe like Polkadot and ADA. But really, I would argue that you want to start with Bitcoin and Ethereum and learn how they work, learn how they move against each other, and try to get a better feeling for that, and then maybe look at other coins. Because the last thing you want to do, right, is just throw $1,000 into a random altcoin you've never heard of and then watch it drop by 50% or something. Khalid says, can you explain your regression band? Yeah, the regression band is just fit to the non-bubble data, right? So if you look at the macro scale, let's look at the BLX. So if you look at the macro scale here, the green regression band is just fit to the quote-unquote like non-bubble data, and then the red regression band is just fit to each of these three peaks. So trying to basically project out these local bottoms and local tops at the peak of each cycle. So this is the idea, right? So this one's fit to these points, and this one's fit to the non-bubble data that's after these like 80% retracements. And it was only fit to the end of 2018, maybe early 2019. I have not refit it since then. So since this point, it has not changed, and it's still done a pretty good job, right? I mean, even though I stopped fitting it over here, because I tend to think that you want to fit it up to the end of the last bear market. So like fit it to the end of the last bear market in terms of measured by its final capitulation, right? I mean, you could argue that the bear market continued, but measure it up to the final capitulation, the low, and then like extend it out from that point, and it tends to do a pretty good job. So I back tested that with the last cycle as well, and I thought it looked good, so that's why I'm doing that with this cycle. And I do think it has worked out so far, right? I mean, I think it has worked out for the most part. I think that we're going to continue moving up over the next 16 months to a sustainable 20,000 Bitcoin. Crypto Elf says DeFi needs to give back and build a foundation. 90% are ridiculous, straight up, and not sustainable. I've said this from the very beginning, right? A lot of these DeFi projects are not sustainable, or they come with inherent risks that are not advertised, right? And you have to consider that if some random project is offering you like a ridiculous interest rate that you can't get in, say, traditional finance, it's probably not sustainable, and they're just using it in the short term to onboard users, or there's risks that you're just not aware of. So you got to keep that in mind. Remember, DeFi is kind of like it's kind of like the magic word. A lot of projects that started off not being DeFi, they've tried attaching that word to their project just on the hopes that it pumps. It's kind of like the same idea back in 2017 when every business was creating a token so that they could correlate, or so that they could kind of assign themselves to cryptocurrency, and everyone was buying cryptocurrency. It's the same thing now, right? It's just, people don't change. You see the you see the flavor of the month, right, or the flavor of the year. In 2017, it was ICOs. So every company that wanted to take advantage of the crypto move, they just created an ICO. And affiliated themselves with crypto, and then they started to pump. It's the same thing now. A lot of these different projects are affiliating themselves with decentralized finance, even though at their core they were not originally built for that, and they're just kind of trying to artificially call themselves DeFi for some ridiculous reason on the hopes that their price goes up. But you have to be careful, right? You have to be careful with these projects because, again, it's the flavor of the month. And I'm not saying that DeFi is bad, right? I do think that DeFi has a role to play. But at the same time, there were some ICOs that did okay and were honest and legitimate, but like 99% of them were not. I think the same thing is going to happen with DeFi. Like 1% of them are probably going to turn out to be okay and it's good, but 99% of them, like in 5 years, are going to be distant memories. And most people joining crypto, say 5 years from now, like they're not even going to have heard of a lot of projects today that are advertising themselves as being in the decentralized finance space. Someone said check Bitcoin's not at 10.1 right now. It's still at 10.2. This just shows the daily close, so it's still at 10.2. Yeah, I would still like to see Link come down more. I mean, maybe it's going to recover in the short term, but I still contend that $12 is too high. What do you think of Winklevoss's 500,000 Bitcoin price prediction? I mean, I think Bitcoin will get to $500,000 maybe in like 2032 or something, but not anytime soon. Someone says 2 days ago I went to the Ethereum watch party. Today I witnessed an Ethereum funeral. Yeah, I mean the Ethereum watch party the other day was really exciting watching it go to 475. I would remind you though that on the premium list I was the 0.5 risk level for Ethereum. So to secure profits at the 0.5 risk band for Ethereum was like at around 344. 444. So around 444, a lot of people had their stop losses set because that was the end of the 0.5 risk band. And it was different in terms of the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio. So again, these pumps are going to happen, and it's just about whether you take advantage of them, right? Whether you DCA your sell and try to make some money, or you just hold it forever. And again, holding it forever, or say holding it for 2 years, you're probably still going to do okay. I would just contend that by leveraging short-term bubbles to your advantage, you can stand to accumulate a lot more. Yes, it does create taxable events. So depending on where you live, what your tax bracket is, how long you've been holding it, it could affect your tax situation. So you need to figure that out too. Someone asked, what % chance do you think we're going to revisit the $5,000 zone? I would say pretty low. In terms of % chance, maybe 20% that we go back to 5K, probably 20%. I think there's a decent chance we give the 20-week a run for its money, right? And maybe we hold it as support. I think there's a decent chance that happens, right? So if that happens, then it could recover and then continue moving up. The 20-week, someone asked, the 20-week right now for Bitcoin is at around $9,800. So it's only about $450 lower than where the current price is. Synthetic saying hi as a Patreon supporter. Thanks, I'm glad you support the channel. Jonathan says, do you think the 200-week moving average is something we ever break? Well, technically we already broke it over here. back in March. I mean, again, I would say don't worry about the wicks, and it's pretty close to holding it even on the candle. So I think that we already did break it. It's possible that we break it again, but if you're talking about the weekly candles, I think there's a good chance we'll hold the 200 week if we were to drop to it. Someone said, what's the 20-week moving average for Ethereum? So it's at 279, but I don't really think that the 20-week moving average for Ethereum is as important. But we'll see. I mean, it's currently at 279. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you guys like the content. Also give the video a thumbs up. I see X Factor is a troll, so I will remove you from the channel. Someone asked what I do have a PhD in nuclear engineering. X Factor wants to be a wise guy, so you are now gone. Don't bother commenting anymore because no one's going to see it. Yeah, so I have a PhD in nuclear engineering. I work in computational material science. QSol says, is 50 Ethereum, is 50 ETH enough to retire on in 2024? Well, if you assume, I mean, just to keep things simple, if Ethereum reaches 10K, I mean, you just have to figure out if that's enough for you to retire on, right? I mean, you know, if you have 100 Ethereum Ether and it reaches and it goes up to 10K, I mean, you're looking at $1 million. If you have 50, you're looking at $500,000. So I mean, again, I think it just depends on your situation. Like, what would you need to retire? And I can't answer that for you. By the way, I don't know that Ethereum's going to 10K. I mean, I've often contended that by the time it would be at 10K, I would probably mostly be out of the market at that point anyways. So I don't think that you should just like sit and wait for 10K as a sure thing, because there's a good chance it won't hit 10K during the cycle. Yeah, this is just my side. This is just like a fun hobby. It's not my day job. I mean, this is the reason why I don't make you guys watch YouTube like ads, right? This is the reason I don't do paid promotions on the channel, right? The reason I don't shill altcoins because someone paid me to do it. I don't need to. I mean, I have a day job that, you know, I worked for a long time to get. So, you know, it puts me in a situation where I don't have to kind of like, you know, accept all these paid shills of altcoins that, you know, like they secretly pay you altcoins or they don't secretly pay you altcoins, and then you pump the altcoin and then you sell it at the expense of your subscribers. No, I don't do this. So yeah, this is just a hobby. It's what I'm passionate about, right? I think it's fun. It's interesting. You know, you can make a lot of money doing it. So that's why we do it, right? This is why we do it. And the only thing I do advertise on my channel is my own stuff, right? My own premium list, right? So if you don't want to be on the premium list, that's fine. There's plenty of public content, but I guarantee you go to a lot of other YouTubers' channels, and what you're gonna find you're gonna have to watch a lot of advertisements before the video even starts, right? In addition to that, like half the videos are just paid promotions. So if they're paid promotions, how do you know you can trust it, right? Because the that YouTuber would have like an ulterior motive to promoting that coin in the first place, right? If they were given some for free, they certainly have an ulterior motive to promote it. Someone says, do you believe in the tech and movement, or are you here for the price action? I do think the tech movement, could play a role, right? I mean, I think that's the reason why the prices do so well, is because it's pure speculation. I think there's a good chance that blockchain is going to integrate itself into society. But at the end of the day, as I've said before, I'm not going to pretend like I'm more altruistic than I am. I'm here for the money, right? I mean, if blockchain integrates itself in society and I don't make money on it, then I did something wrong, right? So my goal is to make money on it. It's my goal, right? I'm not going to pretend like I'm more altruistic than I am on that. Yes, it would be nice. At the end of the day, I'm not going to really care that much. Someone said, how often do you look at the dollar index? We do look at the dollar index, right? I mean, we've looked at it a few times on the channel. There's a couple of videos even that look at it.